So I was gone for a week, obviously. No cell phone service, no internet. Literally put my phone on airplane mode. Wasn't even standing in the Grand Canyon with a weather vane trying to hook up service. But there are certain things that I knew were going to happen in these 7 or 8 days or whatever. Well, I kind of lost track of what day it was. The 7 or 8 days that I'm chilling, looking at rocks and stuff. Certain things I knew were going to happen. Okay, now one of those things, the United States was probably not going to make a great coaching hire. I was actually wrong about that one, signing Pochettino, or at least it seems signing Pochettino was a particularly great call. Chelsea was going to sign somebody. Manchester United was probably going to do something stupid. Somebody in La Liga was going to say something questionable. And something was going to happen in Turkey. Now, Turkey is the least predictable league on the face of the earth. Okay, when I say something is going to happen in Turkey, it could be anywhere from the two fan groups had a militia-style war on the field to somebody decided to tear gas the chairman's house to the president of the entire country of Turkey. Erdogan just decides to show up and start playing for one of the teams, to the two managers had a sumo wrestling contest inside the center circle. All of those things are completely on the table when we're talking about the Turkish league. I have never stopped talking about the Turkish league. Not because the Turkish league is something that, just based off of the product in the field is something that you were demanded to talk about at all times. No, just because Turkey has a master's, they have a doctorate, they have a PhD in tomfoolery. They have, Turkey just does it, it just means more, right? The stupidity and insanity, it just means more in Turkey. If you think any other league is stupid or crazy, you've not been paying attention to what Turkey is capable of. So I knew something was probably going to happen in Turkey that I was going to end up talking about on my first day back on Zealandism. And I was right. I should have written that in stone, and then all of a sudden I could have started a religion, right? That would have been a great move. I could have predicted the future. But what happened had to do with Fenerbahce. This is actually Jose Mourinho's club, which the fact that he joined Fenerbahce is perfect because Fenerbahce, if you remember, is the same club that actually held a members-wide vote asking whether they think they should start exploring options to literally leave the Turkish league because they think that the Turkish Federation is out to get them. They've been involved. They were the team that was attacked when they were on the field by the fans of the other team. The one of the players was dodging a fan that was trying to skewer him with the corner flag, right? They have been involved in not all of, but a lot of the tomfoolery going on in Turkey. And we've taken this up to the latest degree with what was truly a ridiculous incident. Now, I've translated the statement about this incident from Fenerbahce's official Twitter account. I will now partake in some light reading, courtesy of Google Translate here. During the halftime of our match, our football team played against Göztepe in the second week of the league. So we made it to the second week of the league. That's huge. Our managers were meeting with the authorities outside the stadium to resolve the grievance experienced by our fans who were still not allowed in and were subjected to pepper gas. So we've already got a situation where the away fans, being Fenerbahce's fans in this case, are not allowed into the stadium, right? It's halftime. They're still not in the stadium. They're making claims that they've been tear gassed. Of course, this statement's obviously going to leave out whatever Fenerbahce's fans might have done. It's very clear that all you have to do is show up in a Fenerbahce shirt in certain parts of Turkey, and that's just going to start some shit. So I don't know if it was just one of that. You don't know. It's like the start of the American Revolution. Nobody really knows who shot first at Lexington and Concord, but once somebody started shooting, it was just fucking bedlam. And it sounds like that's what was going on outside, and the away fans weren't even allowed into the stadium, which honestly, if you're trying to preserve the safety of the match, might not have been the worst call in the world. But of course, if you're Fenerbahce, you're annoyed because you feel like you're being unfairly treated again because your fans are not allowed into the stadium. So they said the president, Ali Koç, and General Secretary Burak Kilsilhan, my apologies to any Turkish people that were just like their ears are bleeding after that, went to the stands where our fans were and met with the authorities. So they went into the stands as the away fans were coming in. Afterwards, our fans entered the stadium, the events calmed down, and our president and secretary were going to their seats. For no reason at all, our president was attacked from behind by a football terrorist with a Göztepe accreditation card. Now, the images from this are actually pretty striking. I mean, here's one where this is the president kind of being knocked to the ground. He's got his personal security kind of swarming in around him. And as the Sun reports here, a thug managed to make it on the pitch and shoved him to the ground, then attempted to rain punches down on Koch, but was interrupted by the security, at which point a bunch of Göztepe fans started to throw bottles at Ali Koch and his security and the people that were kind of rolling with him, and just generally being shitty towards the president of this club. Understandably, Fenerbahce is going to drop this giant statement after that. They called it a heinous attack. And I mean, is that blowing it out of proportion? Maybe a little bit. But it's not every day that you're just a person that's walking around that gets knocked down from behind and some dude just starts punching you. Like that is certainly, if not heinous, egregious. Let's break out the thesaurus here and kind of find something that you're comfortable with. This was a pretty violent attack, and there was a lot of anger, obviously, from the stands. Now, there was a response from Göztepe about all of this. It was typically Turkish league. They accused Koch of deliberately riling up fans and provoking their fans. To which my response is a fairly simple one. Either your fans need to be put in a zoo because they can't contain themselves outside of a cage, or any amount of riling up from the field doesn't dictate going down on the field to literally try to beat the shit out of somebody, because in most countries, that's illegal, right? And being in a football match and being a football fan does not make it not illegal, which is something that a lot of people have been struggling with recently, so I thought that I would just help out. If you are a citizen of a country where that sort of thing is illegal, then if you are sitting there and somebody is rallying you up, like, I don't know if it's just Fortnite dancing in front of them, like I don't know what he was doing, right? But if you're saying that he was rallying you up, you still can't go beat the shit out of that person just because you think he's riling them up. Now, obviously, Fenerbahce's statement doesn't mention that at all. And my guess just the way all of this kind of comes off, considering Ali Koch literally got knocked to the ground and beat and bottles were chucked and everything, that Göztepe might be blowing whatever Ali Koch was doing out of proportion. And also, if riling the fans up demands a beatdown, Jose Mourinho's not going to make it out of Turkey alive. Like, he's going to do that, and somebody's just going to be like, ha ha, boom, well, it was justified. He got riled up. Like, can you imagine, right, just for a second, because it's hard to wrap your head around how fucking crazy this is, that's kind of like the statement they went with. Can you... Here's the full statement, just so you have context. During the league match played against Fenerbahce in our stadium, it's completely unacceptable to enter areas where only accredited people can enter, despite all the warnings of our CEO while the match is still going on, and to provoke the fans. So now they're mad, right? The statement is saying he was provoking the fans, and the president of one of the two clubs involved, they're saying that he was in an area that he shouldn't have been. And, you don't get hey, maybe this guy shouldn't have beaten the shit out of, or tried to beat the shit out of the president of the other team. You don't get that. Can you imagine if in a Liverpool-Everton match, a Liverpool fan just jumps out of the stands and just starts beating on the Everton manager, and then Liverpool's statement at that point is just like, well, you shouldn't have been there, and you were kind of pissing him off. You'd rattled your stick against the cage. You deserve death. That's crazy. It's a crazy statement. Even if you'd be like, you can do that, right? But you got to lead the statement with, we condemn all fan violence. Like, that dude shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have been throwing the bottles. We're going to work internally to try and address this, because you don't want, at least logic would dictate, you don't want a situation where people that are on the field are in danger. And Turkey just cannot figure that out, right? The Turkish league just can't get behind that at all. It is unsafe. It is inherently unsafe to be on the field in a Turkish league match. If you are playing for Fenerbahce, the unsafe factor goes up by 5 times, right? But there's one more twist to this saga, is that after the incident, and keep in mind the Göztepe statement here, the person wasn't detained, but they weren't arrested. They weren't detained, and they actually stayed at the stadium. We're talking about somebody that knocks down and tries to beat up the president of one of the clubs involved and stayed there. At least that's according to Fenerbahce's statement, right? It was only the person continued to follow the rest of the match with his accreditation card. No action was taken against him, and it was revealed to the public thanks to the attention. So journalists basically were paying attention and said he left the stadium with a wave with a wave of his hand, and changed his clothes. So this guy does this, leaves the stadium, changes clothes, comes back. And when they keep saying accreditation, this is somebody that's like accredited to be on the field, right? They had a Göztepe accreditation. They're not really saying who this person was. Were they a photographer, a journalist, a friend of the family? Who fucking knows? I don't. That's for sure. But this guy leaves the stadium and just comes back. Like, you can totally, no matter what Fenerbahce did, then they could have been, he could have been like pelvic thrusting Elvis Presley style in front of the away end, right? To try and antagonize the fans. The Fenerbahce fans could have been massive dicks outside of the stadium. Fenerbahce could have just been huge pieces of shit the entire time. Even then, in that scenario, Göztepe still fucked up the hardest because they didn't do anything to the one guy that kicked this whole thing off, like physically kicked this whole thing off. You can't, like, if you just attack somebody, right, that is not threatening you, okay, you should probably at least be detained, right? Like, that's just not, behavior that can be tolerated in a society where you'd like to open your door and be like, I'm not going to get punched in the face today, right? Like, that sounds like a solid plan. And instead, this guy's just come back to the game, and he's just still there, right? And this is all getting crazier and crazier. Even when in the Turkish league that ref got punched in the face, the president resigned and was detained, and there was a whole investigation. Obviously, the ref got punched in the face so hard he needed surgery. I don't know if I included that in the last Zealandism, but he did actually need surgery to repair his eye socket. But you gotta love Fenerbahce is also they're riding this boat. They list the law. With the law numbered 6222, which has been in effect for years, immediate action is taken and precautions are taken against the persons concerned in the slightest irregularities. Who and where does this person with the Göztepe accreditation card get his privilege from? They ask a bunch of questions. They turn into Socrates, the bottom of this. Who gives this person the courage to commit a crime in front of millions of people and then leave the stadium without any legal action being taken? A criminal complaint has been filed by our President Ali Koç against the officials who were negligent, especially this football terrorist, and the process will be followed meticulously. Kind of a baller move from Fenerbahce there. Fenerbahce has indicated its willingness to go us against the world in the Turkish league. They, threatening to pull out and all this different other legal action. And now they are looking to go after the officials who were negligent in this situation, which you'd have to agree that they were. There's no way you should be able to attack anyone, let alone the club president, on the field and be able to continue to be on the field for the rest of the game, right? Like, even if you do that on the actual playing field, you get sent off. You can't stay there, right? Like, if you do that in a restaurant or a plaza or a theme park or something, you just truck somebody to get on the water slide faster and maybe throw in a couple of punches, maybe throw a bottle at them, you're getting kicked out of the theme park. You're probably going to get detained by Paul Blart, the mall cop, right? Like, you can't do this. And Fenerbahce probably has a case. I mean, I'm not a Turkish legal expert. I know that might surprise you, but I think Fenerbahce has a pretty darn good case here. But the real case that needs solving is why Turkey? Turkey, come on. Why? Figure it out, right? Like, there is loving your team, and there is being ride or die for your team, and then there's being a violent idiot, right? In too often, it seems, in Turkey, there is an obsession, I'll call it, with crossing that line into being a violent idiot, right? Like, there just is. There's this group of people that think the only way to be a fan of your club is to actually, be illegally violent, which, doesn't really make a lot of sense. The real question here is, how long is Jose Mourinho going to skirt this before he needs to break out his jiu-jitsu black belt or something to try and submit a fan that's trying to hit him in the back of the head like a Looney Tunes cartoon with a glass bottle or something? That Jose Mourinho is going to get mixed up in some of this at some point, and I can't wait. I feel like he's still warming up. He's like an opera singer, still working on his voice backstage. But when he hits that first note and starts talking that Jose Mourinho trash, we're going to have a lot more Turkey stories, I promise you.